Happy Wednesday. I am sorry about my lighting. I have tons of lighting, you guys. I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to try to fix it, but we're going to power through anyways. I hope you guys have been having an amazing week. And there's definitely been a lot going on over on this end. But we're going to cover Darcy and Stacey, the twins tell all, part 2. Shout out to the live chat. Hey, Raydella. Hey, Patty. Hey, Linda. Hey, midwife. Crystal. Thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up while you're watching, while you're here. And again, sorry about the weird little shadows and stuff and all of that. I don't know what's going on. I've been working on it for 20 minutes and I'm just going to go with it, even though it's really bugging me. That being said, let's talk about Darcy and Stacey, the twins tell all part 2. I was super disappointed with part 2. I think that there were a lot of missed opportunities. But, you know, I've found more often than not, the tell-all is not always the tell-all that we want. Do you know what I mean? Like the questions don't get answered. So I'm a little disappointed in that. I basically would call it the Darcy tell-all. Really, it was basically, let's put Darcy in the hot seat and let's just talk shit about Georgi for 2 hours. It made no sense to me because, I mean, if you're going to have a tell-all, we watched all season. Let's talk about the players that were involved this season. So let's talk about Stacey. Let's talk about Florian. Let's bring the dad back because he was a big part of it. Where was the mom? Because the mom came in and out, right? We did see the best friends. I didn't know why we were talking to Jesse and Tom because they had no part of her season, but I do know why we're going to talk about that later. But I was just like, oh, so part 2 was really just what? Like what was the purpose of this? And why did we not talk to Stacey and Georgi? Excuse me, Stacey and Florian. Like, isn't it called Darcy and Stacey? And didn't we spend a whole season with Stacey and Florian and their issues and their things that they were going through? Don't know. Anyways, they started off with Georgi is now a flirtatious type of person. And Darcy knows about it, but he tells Darcy he's networking. And, you know, Darcy says, you know, there has to be trust in a relationship. So she's trusting that that's what he's doing. He's networking. But I go back to ever since you met him, he hasn't been working. So he's networking doing what? Right? Because it's real estate, it's rose oil, it's modeling, it's massage therapy. But in all of this time, you're not working. So what are we networking for? Maybe if you had a specific goal, I might believe it a little bit more, right? But Stacey jumps in and says that, you know, they were in New York and he got caught talking to models up close and personal to one specific model. And Darcy again shrugs it off, saying he was probably just networking. And Octavia, Georgi's ex, was like having none of it. She's like, well, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about respect. Florian tries to jump in there and stick up for Georgi. And Octavia slams that down too. She's like, what you're not about to do is mansplain this situation. It's absolutely disrespectful, especially if Georgi's in a relationship with Darcy. Florian goes on to say that he has no issues with Georgi. And Octavia is like, yeah, because you're not the one who's dating him. So you don't see the issues and you wouldn't have an issue because it's not you, which is interesting because he had such a big issue with Jesse during this tell-all, but no issue with Georgi, which I find interesting, right? Because I think that all in all, it's all troubling. Like all of this is troubling. And I'll tell you why it's troubling, you guys, before I get more into it. The simple fact that I know if you guys are my Patreon subscribers, I talk about this all the time. And I've talked about it on some of my Darcy and Stacey episodes. But I think first that Darcy and, you know, to an extent, Stacey have childhood trauma from bullying that they just have not dealt with. Because the fact that Darcy can cry as soon as you talk about anything about her, and yes, she's on a public platform and, you know, she's internationally known because of the shows and her own spinoff, and people are mean, right? But when I saw her on the show and the way she's still looking at Jesse and how whatever Jesse says, it's almost like she's still looking for his approval and she still cares about what he says. Because I got to tell you, if I had an ex and he was talking shit about me, I kind of wouldn't care because you're not a part of my life and I don't care about you like that anymore. So if you have so much time and energy to talk about me, then that's on you. Right? So there's so many different intricacies going on here because at the end of the day, I say all that, but Darcy, I looked around that stage and Darcy is the reason all of those people are there because Darcy's the first one to be on the show, right? She's brought on Jesse. She brought on Tom. She even brought on her sister, right? Because it was all about Darcy first, then it was Stacey, and then Stacey brought her husband into it. Then Darcy brought her daughters, and then Darcy brought her friend Michael Benz, who that's a whole other story. So on the one hand, I'm like, okay, so Darcy's really in charge. And so this tell-all didn't feel like so tell-all-ish because I don't know if you guys noticed, but anytime anyone was asked a question, they would look to Darcy first. Even Stacey's whole body was not cuddled up with her husband. It was twisted and looking directly at Darcy. And I was like, oh, see, so there's something else going on here. Because I do think that Darcy and Stacey have this weird je ne sais quoi. Like, obviously, they're twins. They love each other and they support each other and they're sisters and all the things. But there's this weird underlying something. They snap at each other. I think Stacey is scared to actually say what she wants to really say to Darcy. But then Darcy really leans on Stacey for support and for encouragement in her life. I think that Darcy is a bit jealous of Stacey's relationship because Stacey is in a relationship and she is not, and she's had multiple failed relationships, and it goes back to they have to do everything together in Darcy's mind, right? So they got married together the first time, they got divorced together the first time, they had the kids at the same age the first time. Any surgery that Darcy does, Stacey comes along and does it because they have to be twins and everything. And I think that it bothers Darcy a lot that she has not had a successful relationship in this last little run, and Stacey has. And so I think that there's a lot of layers going on there. I also think that on the one hand, when I talk about like childhood trauma and that goes into even all the surgeries and stuff that they do, you guys, I think that they just have to practice more self-love. And I know they give it the lip service, but I don't know necessarily if they practice that in their day-to-day lives because there's just so many different layers. Anyhow, back to the tell-all. So Florian doesn't have an issue with Georgi. And then Darcy, of course, is trying to justify her relationship with Georgi, saying he's not perfect, she's not perfect, but they love each other. Stacey jumps in there to say, stop justifying. And Darcy whips her head over at Stacey and snaps at her and says, this is a tell-all, Stacey, so I'm telling all. I was like, oh, whoa. Oh, okay. Okay. And this is not the first time I'm seeing the snapping. And that's why I also was really paying attention to Stacey's body language and how she answered questions, because she would answer, but she'd be looking for Darcy's approval. It was like so many things going on, you guys. So Darcy goes on to say that, she doesn't, this is not new to her. She's always carried a lot of weight on her shoulders. She thinks that Georgie's a good guy and she loves him and she knows that he loves her and she'll be there for him no matter what. And then she starts crying. And I was like, oh, hey, dopey dope. And I was like, okay, so what's causing you to cry? Are you crying because you know that you're holding on to a relationship that you shouldn't be holding on to? Are you crying because everyone seems to be like coming at you for your specific relationship, even though some of their relationships are problematic as well? And so you don't like being on the hot seat? Like there's a lot of things, a lot of questions I had in that moment. Like what exactly is upsetting her? Right? Because it can't be easy sitting there and hearing all these negative things, I'm sure. But at the same time, she kept saying, I'll make my own decision. I love him. He loves me, all the things. But really, did you? And did you ever have a relationship in the last 3 that you've been in that these guys actually loved you for you, or were they using you for clout or money or the such? Because she said something even in this tell-all that even when she was with Jesse, she paid for everything. Right? Can you imagine? Like, you're just a string of bad relationships. Thank you so much, Dopey Dope, for the super sticker. A string of bad relationships, and finding out finally, or realizing finally, and I don't know if she's necessarily realized it, but that they didn't love you for you. It's quite sad. So then Michael Benz, the designer, comes in, and you guys, I like, not that you can't have new friends. You should always be making friends. But like, no new friends that we don't know anything about. Like, we met him on 2 episodes, barely. He came in guns a-blazing, coming in hot, all the things. And we had never met him before. But apparently, he's such great friends with Darcy and Stacey. But if you're such great friends, A, you don't know Jesse. You never met him. You didn't even know about Tom. And us, the fans, we never met you before until season 3. What? What do you, like, what? I'm not really sure, like, what. I'd rather have had the 2 best friends, the twins' best friend, back than this dude. Because we don't know anything about this dude, and I don't know. So anyways, he's a designer. Now, you guys know I get distracted by things. So between the blue hair, he had this green bangly earring in one ear that was like gold and green, pink shoes, and then this jean/leather jacket that had like some weird eye thing in the back. And here's the thing. Sean said, oh, so you've known them for years. You've known them since their LA days. You've been with them since the beginning of House of 11. Did you see Darcy's face? Darcy didn't correct Sean, but you know that House of 11 is just Darcy and Stacey. This Michael Benz had nothing to do with it, right? So I was like, oh, so now we're claiming that he's part of their business on national TV so that he, you know what I mean? Like, it's messy. So apparently he likes Stacey and Florian's relationship. I thought that was going to be a segue into us talking about Stacey and Florian. It was not. Then he goes on to say that Florian is hardworking. And that's when I was like, you clearly are not their best friend or good friend, because Florian hasn't worked and he just got his green card. So hardworking doing what? Hardworking doing what? And he has ambition. Okay, yeah, he has ambition. He wants to do some things. Hey, Dasha, he wants to be, a model, and he can do furniture and build furniture and all this stuff. But it wasn't up until this season where he got his green card that he was going to be able to do that. So what are you talking about? He's hardworking and he has ambition. Apparently they really enjoy each other. Florian says, oh, I really like Michael's energy. And I was like, since when? Again, we only saw him in 2 episodes. In the first episode, you weren't feeling him, and you were actually backing Georgi against him. And then you guys went on that weird alligator trip, and you still weren't feeling him. So now all of a sudden you're besties? Like, I don't understand. So then Michael, because he doesn't like to be called Mike, says that they have a bromance. Okay. Can I just say this? Can I just be super real with you guys? Because it just is irritating. So if I am a host, which I am, if I'm a journalist, which I am, if I'm an entertainment reporter, which I am, and I know I only have an hour to ask specific questions, I don't understand why. I don't understand. I don't understand why Sean says to Michael, what's a bromance? That's the question? You don't know? You've never heard the word bromance before? So we're going to waste 2 minutes of the 42 minutes of the show to ask. I don't know. It just irritated me. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why. I think it was a weird question. Everyone knows what a bromance is, and if you don't know what a bromance is, then I mean, where have you been? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, let's get to the real questions. Let's talk about Stacey and Florian. Let's talk about how Stacey and Florian are in the same situation as Georgi and Darcy, in the sense that, guess what? Both of these women are supporting their men. Can we talk about that? What's Florian's 5-year plan? So now he has his green card. This is an ample opportunity to ask him, hey, you got your green card, so what are your next steps? What do you want to do? And then the part, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but and I've talked about this again with my Patreon subscribers. So we all know that Mike, the dad, moved, right? And he lives in this huge mansion now. And we all know that in his old house, both of his daughters and all of their kids and their spouses all lived in the house with him. He sells the house, y'all, okay? Because he wants to, just live his retirement life. Gets this beautiful house, you guys, and if you haven't seen it, you guys, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful house, huge, beautiful. But in the tell-all, we hear that Darcy is living there with Georgi. But in the tell-all, what you guys aren't told is that so are Stacey and Florian. They've all moved out of that apartment that all of a sudden they're triple the rent. They all moved back to dad's house. Everyone lives there now, again, all over the place. So I was like, why are we missing this opportunity to talk about that? Aren't you guys interested in that? Because I am. Y'all 46, 47-year-old women living at home with your kids and your dad. But then you're supporting your men. But then is your dad supporting you? Like, what does that look like? And then you have a plan that you might want to move to Miami. But you've been saying that for years. It's just, I'm disappointed. It literally should just have been called the Darcy update and not the twins tell all, because y'all weren't telling us anything about Stacey and Florian. Y'all weren't really getting into anything really. So what are we telling all about part 2? So back to Michael Benz. The one question we did get answered, or not answered, but the one question that I thought was a good question to ask was Mike's opinion on whether Florian and Stacey can endure a long relationship without having kids. And, she's like, will it weigh on the relationship? And here's the thing that was crazy. When Sean said to Stacey, what's next in your fertility journey? Did you guys see Darcy's face? Darcy flipped her whole entire head, looked directly at her sister in her face, and she had a huge smirk. Did anyone else catch that? She's looked at her. Now, Stacey is looking at Darcy, and she was almost scared. She's almost scared to say what she really was. She just they were looking at each other, having a twin moment. Darcy's smirking, like, in my mind, like, bitch, you better not say what you're doing. Right? Because if Stacey dares gets pregnant in her marriage, that I think Darcy would lose her mind. Because guess what? Then all of a sudden she has 3 kids and not just 2. And she's having a baby and going to go through that journey. And Darcy doesn't have anyone to share that with. She'd be livid. And so I thought it was interesting that Stacey literally took a pause before she answered. And she just looked at Darcy as if she was scared to really answer what she really wanted to do. Because I think that even given fertility issues, I think that there's so much technology and advancements in medicine that they have options if that's something she really wants to do, and that's something that Florian wants to do. And we know Florian is like, leave it to God and all those things. Laura, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think that she has options. We've seen women that are in their 50s nowadays that are having babies. And so there are options available to women that are a little bit older. So I think that if she wanted to go and try that journey for real, then that would be an option for her. Now, whether she's really wanting to do that, I don't know. So Stacey looks at Darcy all scared and then gives this, I'm blessed to have two amazing sons. They're older now. And, they have a great connection with Florian. And that should be good enough. And Florian says, I married someone for love, not for children. And I love Stacey and I'll love her till the day I die. And I was like, I do a lot of interviews in my life. I do a lot of them. If that is not the super manufactured answer, I don't know what is. And so to me, that would have been a great opportunity to actually dig a little deeper. So you're saying, oh, we married for love and all the things, but I can't remember how old Florian is, but we know that he's younger than Stacey. My next question would probably be, well, do you think you're going to feel that way in 5 years? Do you going to feel like that way when you're 40? Because when we met you, you wanted kids. So do you really mean what you're saying? Vanessa, is he 28? Oh, Lord. He's 28. You guys, okay, if he's indeed 28 years old, give him 10 years and let's circle back. Hey, C. Cruz, give him 10 years and let's circle back if he feels the same way. And not everyone wants children, and that's okay. Love is love, and you do what's best for your relationship and focus on what's best for you. But I'll tell you something. If someone said that they wanted children all their life and all of a sudden they're with someone and that person doesn't want kids or can't have kids, and then they say, oh yeah, I don't want to have kids anymore, I don't think it's true. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen where the people are together for X amount of years, and then that the person that really wanted kids either A, cheats, goes and has a kid with someone younger, or B, leaves that person for someone else and has a kid with that person. So I don't know. I feel like, again, this was a missed opportunity because you all brought it to us. We spent half a season last season on the fertility journey that was a pretend fertility journey because they were on their way to Turkey to get plastic surgery. So you're not obviously trying to get pregnant and then go get lipo. It just, oh God. I'm just saying, if you're going to bring a topic up, if you're going to bring something that you guys want us to focus on, whether it's the relationship or fertility or whatever it is, then let's continue to discuss that at the tell-alls. That's all I'm saying. So, they then go and show this flashback of the beach with Michael. And, Michael says that Georgi was all red flags to him. And Florian says, that whole fight was Michael's fault. And Michael actually takes responsibility for coming in hot, but he also did feel like Georgi was giving him attitude. And so all of them were talking about how Georgi reacts too fast and attitude and all of this stuff. You know what, you guys, I actually didn't care about that because I was way past that whole scene because still, in my opinion, Darcy and Stacey should have stood up to their friend. In my opinion, if these are your partners and your friend is coming in hot because you have blabbed all your problems, so the first time they're meeting, your friend's coming in hot, I think it's your responsibility to also then settle him down, right? So I just was like, whatever. What I did think was interesting was off camera, we found out that they all were hanging out and got into another fight, and Georgi actually threw a drink or poured a drink on Michael. And it was all because apparently there was some girl, Georgi was talking to some girl. He had Darcy's debit card, which also is a whole other side story because in my mind, he doesn't work, but he's living off of Darcy, using her money, but then outside pretending to be like he's the man. So he pays for shit with her card. Like he's the one that's impressing the women around him that he's flirting with. I have a whole thing going on there. So he has Darcy's debit card. Darcy asks for it back. He won't give it back to her. And so Darcy's like, well, why? It's my card. And then that's when Michael jumps in to like give back the card. Then they get into a fight. And so we find out that there was more than one fight between Michael and Georgi. One just happened off camera. Now, here's the thing. When Michael said it originally, like when the words came out of his mouth, again, he looked directly at Darcy and didn't answer the question until Darcy answered the question, which goes back to what I was saying earlier. Everyone's afraid to really say stuff, and they all look at Darcy for approval before they open their mouth. Did anyone else notice that? Did anyone else notice that? Because it was a big deal to me. I was like, so are we really having a true tell-all? Are we all gonna have Sean answer the question, everyone turn to Darcy to see if it's okay to answer the question, and then finally answer? Because I mean, I either that's a super controlling thing, so either Darcy's in control, and like I said, Darcy is the one that got all these people. She put all these people on, right? So they're all on TV because of Darcy, and maybe she knows that, or maybe she uses that against them. Or option two is that she's super controlling, and she's controlling the narrative, and so they all know that, so they don't want to go against whatever narrative she's putting out there. But if either of those things are true, what's also interesting to me is that Darcy talks about bullying and growing up and still being traumatized by that and being bullied by her exes and the mean things that they say. But then wouldn't this kind of be a type of bullying if people don't feel like they can speak freely and openly in front of you? I don't know. I just found it interesting. I think it would be an interesting thing to explore, because I definitely know that Stacey doesn't talk freely. Stacey and Darcy's relationship, the more you see them together, the more questions you have. It's clear, like I said, it's clear that they're close. It's clear that they love each other. It's clear that they're twins, but it almost seems like they also have a little bit of hate for each other, or a little bit of sibling rivalry going on there, or envy or jealous or something. There's something there underlying that's just, I don't know. I mean, if you're on national TV and you can snap at your sister, and then the other person can like talk crazy, and you notice that Stacey puts all her angst and animosity towards Georgi. But I would go on to say there's another level there, because I don't think, and I back it up because she's literally said this. She's like, oh, I don't want to upset Darcy. I don't want to confront Darcy. So maybe a lot of that angst and anger is like just repressed hostility that she's misdirecting to Georgi, because she can't direct it to the person that she really wants to direct it to, because she's afraid to really say what she feels and means. I don't know. It's a possibility. Sean asks Michael, because apparently he's the expert in Darcy and Stacey, which I still just don't believe, but asks if he thinks that Georgi loves Darcy. And he's like, well, there's two types of love. Laura, I think, Laura, you were reading my mind, because I was about to do my empowerment voice. That's funny. But then I didn't. Okay, so Michael says there's two types of love. There's the love that you have for someone where you're like, oh, I love you. I'll do some things for you. And then there's the I'm in love with you love. I'll do anything for you. I'd even die for you. And he says that Georgi has the first one for Darcy. He loves Darcy. He'll do some things for Darcy. And that's it. And I'm going to venture a little further and say He loves Darcy's money. He loves the lifestyle that comes with that money. He loves the fact that Darcy's on an international TV show and therefore he gets to be on an international TV show. And I think that's it. So I don't know if you could call that love. Now, I don't know enough about Georgi, so I can't say enough. And I can't really dig into it, but I just, it's like this. For before the 90 days this season that we're watching, and the last episode that we just watched, where Jimena said that she had a job, she met Mike, quit her job because Mike was funding her life, and now that she doesn't want to be with him or whatever, can't stand him, then she's able to go back to work. Georgi met Darcy in Miami, and he was a massage therapist, so he said. But he hasn't worked since he met Darcy at all. Is that love? Geek Girl says, and he can start, and then he could start an OnlyFans account. Well, he already started it. He started it last week. If you follow Melanated Way, I posted about it. He started his OnlyFans account last week, so he's already there, Geek Girl. Linda, I'm going to come back and circle to this question. So Linda's asking, what would Darcy do with a man who had his own career and she couldn't direct him or control everything he did? I don't necessarily think that that's what Darcy wants, but I'm going to circle back to that in a minute. Okay. So then they bring Jesse on. And they flash back to 2020 when he was on Bears All, and he was saying that Darcy was still texting him and was calling his mom and was all up in his grill. And Darcy was saying on Bears All that wasn't true. She didn't have his phone number anymore. She didn't give a shit about him. Oh my God, C. Cruz, thank you so very much. That is so generous. Thank you so very much. For this super sticker. That's really kind. I appreciate you so much. So Darcy on Bears All says that she didn't have his number. She denies calling. She denies all of it. She's like, no, that didn't happen, right? And this is where Darcy's like, I don't even care about you. I don't even think about you. When I was with you, I paid for everything. So like, I'm good. And then okay, so let me do my Jesse. Jesse's like this. I just want to make sure that you're in a better place and that you've moved on and that because I'm happy for you, that you will be happy for me. In the ultimate gaslighting voice, okay? Ultimate, right? And he's showing no emotion. He's so in control. He's so zen, peace and love. I knew it was eating Darcy up inside, like her face. She kept rolling her eyes out of her head. Then he goes on to say, I have no bad emotions. I have no bitterness. I want you to be happy because I'm happy. Okay. But he knows that Darcy's not happy for him. Well, why do you care if Darcy's happy for you? Like, why? How? It's been 3 years and y'all are still doing all of this? And I'll tell you why right now, why they're still doing it before I move on. And Florian freaks out. This is why they're doing it. In my opinion, Darcy loved Jesse. Darcy thought that Jesse was the love of her life. I think that Darcy still has some unresolved feelings about Jesse. And if she could be with Jesse, in my opinion, she would be. Okay? I think that Jesse knows this about Darcy and knows that if he continues to poke at her, he will always get a reaction. And because he will get a reaction, it will keep him relevant. Because lo and behold, he's on a spinoff. The only reason he's part of the 90-day franchise is because of Darcy. Anytime they bring him on, they mention Darcy. And so if that's going to keep him relevant, he's going to continue to fan that flame. Because guess what? It keeps him relevant. It keeps him paid. And guess what? It also gets him on spinoffs. So Dasha says, but Darcy thinks everybody she dates is the one. I think that Darcy really thought that Jesse was the one. That's why she doesn't really trip over Tom. She gets irritated, but she doesn't really trip over him. But you mentioned Jesse, and she freaks out. And even this breakup with Georgi on social media, it hasn't been super crazy. Jesse, I'm telling you, that's the one that had her heart for whatever reason. Everyone else was just in the moment. So Florian starts freaking out. He's screaming at the screen. And you have to, imagine Jesse and his zen and his hot tea talking so calm and zen. That Florian is on 100. Why are you here? Every time you're here to bother my sister-in-law, bother, excuse. Is happy for the other day for him and everything. Oh, you not happy for me? What need? To kiss his feet? Shush your effing mouth with me. Shh. And then he goes on to say, shut the F up. And then there were just F-bombs for a good 5 minutes. And then he says, come to my face and come and say this stuff. So Sean's why are you so upset with Jesse? And he talks about a time that he called Darcy while she was in Amsterdam with Jesse, and Darcy couldn't talk. She had to talk really quietly because Jesse wants peace in the house because he's reading. Y'all, if that is not a super manipulative, I'm telling you, something about Jesse had Darcy wrapped around his finger. And it's just interesting because 3 years later, you can still see that he affects her with his attitude and the way he does things. So then he stands up and he's freaking out. Florian stands up. He's freaking out. Saying, why are you here? You're an asshole. Michael jumps in and says that Jesse's kind of an asshole and he's delusional. And then Jesse in his calm voice says, well, there really shouldn't be any bad blood between us. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. I'm just answering Sean's questions. Oh, Lord, stop it. Stop gaslighting all of us. All of us watching, everyone on stage, just stop it. So Florian says to Jesse, what do you need Darcy's happiness for? For what? You just want more attention. That's what you want. Why are you here? He kept saying, which is a valid question. Why are you here? You weren't on their season. You're on a whole different spinoff. You guys have been broken up for 3 years. Why are you here? What was the purpose? If this is the tell-all about season 3, and these two, Jesse and Tom, were not part of season 3, why did we decide to go in this direction? Because I personally, like I said, could have done without that and focus more on both twins. The first hour if I was doing the tell-all, the first hour, I would have done Darcy, right? And all Darcy's relationships during the season. And then the second hour, part 2, I would have done Stacey. And then I would wrap it up with everyone so that it made sense. Because again, we spent a whole season with Darcy and Stacey. So why was this all about Georgi and then Darcy and then Darcy's exes who have nothing to do with this season? So then, Jesse said something that was interesting. He said, well, Tom, Georgi, one of Darcy's exes named Michael, and other exes have all reached out to him before. And I was like, well, why would all the exes reach out to you? Like, you're the expert. If anything, they should reach out to her ex-husband, because that is the father of her children and they were married for many years. So what makes you the expert in Darcy, Jesse? It's weird. It's all just very weird. So Florian is freaking out. Florian's like, come here, just come here, come to my face. Say all this to my face. I'll fly you here. I'll pay for your ticket. And then Jesse says, you don't have anything. And that is when shit hit the fan, because now Florian's offended because on the one hand, Jesse's acting like he can't understand Florian, but he can completely understand Florian. And then now you're saying Florian has no money and he can't afford to fly you out. I was like, someone's being a jerk. So Florian gets mad. He walks off. Mike follows him off. They go have a smoke break, talk about how Jesse's a loser, a garbage person. They come back from their smoke break. And everyone is apparently has calmed down. Jesse is asked by Sean if he thinks that Georgi should have come to the tell-all. And again, why does Jesse have a vote? He's not part of the show. He wasn't part of the season. So who cares what Jesse thinks if Georgi showed up or not? But Jesse answers and says, yeah, he thinks Georgi should have shown up. And then that's when Florian talks over Jesse again and says, why are you here? What reason are you here? Why are you fucking here? And then Jesse tries to antagonize Florian more by saying, you know, you should probably talk calmer and stop threatening me, saying come face to face. And I was like, at that moment, it was clear to me that you understood everything that Florian was saying because you're literally saying it back to him. So it wasn't enough that they brought Jesse. They also brought Tom on. And Sean was like, this is the first time that they've all been together in one, stage. Now, Jesse was drinking tequila, or excuse me, Jesse was drinking his tea, being all calm and zen, and Tom was drinking tequila, but had a little bit of a different interaction with Darcy. Doesn't think that Darcy cheated on him, kind of called Jesse out on that, saying, you guys were basically over. It was the tail end of your relationship. Maybe there was like a week there she was still texting you, but it was over. And Jesse's like, well, you just proved my point. In my books, if I'm still with someone and then they're texting someone else, that's cheating. And I was like, oh God, here we go. Tom goes, well, you know what? I actually knew her before she even met you. We were friends for like a few years before you came in the picture. We were friends throughout until we weren't. Sean asked Tom if Georgi reached out to him, and allegedly he did, but Tom didn't respond. Tom said, you know what? It's not my place to sit and talk about an ex-partner. If we're all happy in our own relationships, we should all just move on and it should not be a big deal. And that's why I didn't respond. And that's when Darcy jumped in and was like, see, Tom didn't respond, but Jesse was quick to respond. And again, I was like, see, why is Jesse still getting under your skin? And the only reason, or the only answer I can come up with is she still has some type of feeling for him. Like she really did. That was her one, she thought in her mind. Honestly, you guys. Because Tom's talking, she doesn't really care. Georgi hasn't shown up and she's kind of still been making excuses for him. But Jesse comes and Jesse gets a rise out of her. Think about that. So they talk about this story where Georgi reached out to Tom. Georgi reached out to Jesse. Darcy thinks that Jesse leaked that story to the media because it was all over social media. And Darcy thinks he does stuff like that because he likes the attention. And so Jesse's like, I did not do that. I have a beautiful life. I have a beautiful girlfriend, and we're buying a beautiful villa in Spain. I wish Darcy all the best. Now I'm going to tell you something right now. Okay? I'm going to tell you all something right now. If that was not the biggest gaslight, I don't know what is. If you guys don't agree with what I'm saying, where I'm saying that Jesse knows that Darcy was 100% wrapped up in him. And Jesse knows what buttons to push for Darcy. And Jesse knows what Darcy's hopes and dreams and all the things were. You want to know what Darcy has always wanted? She's always wanted a relationship. She's always wanted to be married. She always wanted to be in a committed, this is my man, long term. But she's also really wanted to not be the breadwinner all the time, right? Paying for her partner all the time. So when she went to Miami and had that moment with her cousin, and her cousin is married to the basketball player, Ray Allen, and they live in a mansion, and they're a power couple, and they do power moves. And then she says to Georgi, this is what I want. I want, to be a power couple and to be power moves. You can imagine Jesse specifically pointing out that he has a beautiful life, a beautiful girlfriend, and they're buying a villa, that would absolutely be like a knife in Darcy, because all the things that she's always wanted, he's saying he has. And she was hoping to have that with him. It's a very low blow, you guys. It was very subtle, but not because he's, bragging. But it was also specifically to get under Darcy's skin and to open up. It's like opening up a wound that she hasn't even healed, and to poke at an insecurity that he knows that she struggles with. It was very it was a mean move. It was not very nice. It was just not very nice. So Tom says, you know what? There's got to be a point, Jesse, that you just let go. You draw a line and you move forward. And right now, you're not coming off as being very nice. You're not coming off as being humble. And Jesse did not like that Tom said that, called him a hypocrite. Why are you here? I'm here, but you're here too. Which, to me, was kind of a valid point. Like, why are you guys here? Why are the both of you here? You had nothing to do with this season. Yes, we already know that you guys are exes, but we also had the closure on TV with both of you. They talk about the negative comments. And Sean says to Darcy, you once said that exes' negative comments were worse than the bullies that you dealt with in school. And Darcy talks about the jabs and the jokes are hurtful. She starts crying, and that's when I said, you guys, she has trauma that she hasn't dealt with, and I really wish that she would go to therapy. I really wish she would go to therapy to deal with these issues, because it can't be easy to not only be on an international stage and be vulnerable and be made fun of and be trolled and all the things, but if you haven't healed from what clearly is a wound that you hurt from, you still talk about the bullying, and then now you feel like your exes are bullying you some more. You have to talk about that. You have to get past that. And I honestly, you guys have said this a lot of times. Part of them changing their exterior appearance constantly is because they're not happy with who they are on the inside. And they've dealt with what they think is the standard of beauty in their time and haven't gotten past that. I'm just saying, it's really unfortunate. I wish they would talk to someone and work through some of the things that I think is important, because I think that as their stage gets bigger, as they get more well known, that there's more scrutiny, and people online tend to not be the nicest. And so I wish that they would allow themselves to have the tools to be successful emotionally. That's why, people spin out, like the Britney Spears and I don't know, I can't feel all the celebrities that spin out and go to drugs and alcohol, because if you haven't been dealing with your own stuff and then you're catapulted to an international level and get scrutinized, that's when you can spin out. I'm just saying, I wish someone would sit them down and be like, it's okay to like get help and talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, so that you have the tools to move forward, because people can not be kind sometimes. Anyhow, Tom apologizes to Darcy, says that he should have been a better person, because, he was problematic when they were together, and he said some mean things to her as well. And then Jesse does this pseudo apology thing, basically says, I just want the best for you. And so I was like, that was like a faux apology. So I have a question for my live chat. You guys ready? I have a question for you. And I think I'm going to make it a official question. All right, here we go. I want to know, and if you're watching the replay, you can comment in the comments on the replay. But I want to ask you guys, is Darcy still in love with Jesse? Is Darcy still in love with Jesse? I want to get your opinion on that. So definitely weigh in the live chat. I'll keep that question up and I will move on. So we also find out that Darcy and Georgi have moved into the dad's house. I spoke about this at the top of the show. Again, missed opportunity for Sean, because not only has Darcy and Georgi moved into the dad's new mansion, but so has Stacey and Florian. Plus, Darcy's two kids still live there too, right? So just like they started with their first marriages, the twins have everyone back at daddy's house. And that's why I thought it was interesting that they didn't have, we had a whole 2 hours that we could have really pulled from the one man that knows his daughter the best. We could have asked Mike so many questions on this tell-all about his daughters. How do you feel? How do you really feel, Mike, about all the surgery your daughters have had? How do you feel, Mike, that it was only in season 3 that they admitted that they were biracial? How do you feel that your daughters, because you mentioned once that you have kind of gone past it and realized that they don't look like Silvas anymore. What does the Silver look like to you? And what are you hoping to instill in your granddaughters? And do you have a fear that your granddaughters are going to go down the same road as your daughters? There were listen, and those are only questions at the top of my head. But no, we talked to Mike for what? The first hour, and not even the full first hour, and then he was in the back the whole time. I was like, okay, so we're getting some answers. Ashley says yes. Dasha says hell no. She is not still in love with Jesse. I don't believe so. Patty says yes for all the wrong reasons. Laura says, I don't think she's still in love with Jesse, but he does trigger her. Keep the answers coming. I'm curious. It's kind of 50-50 right now. Is Darcy still in love with Jesse? So again, I really feel like missed opportunity with the dad. Because if you want to get to the real source and who someone is, the parents are going to know, right? In my opinion. C. Cruz says, yes, in her mind, she probably thinks he was the one that got away. So it was a long, emotional day for everyone. Darcy talks about how she knew that she's going to go back to the hotel and get the wrath from Georgi, but it's all in God's hands, and she's just going to make a sound decision for herself. Everyone has an opinion about her relationship, but at the end of the day, she's going to make a decision for herself and her relationship. I thought it was over, you guys, and I was so unimpressed by it. I was about to turn it off, and then there was this 2 days later on the screen. I was like, okay, let me pay attention. And 2 days later, apparently there's a bunch of drama. Georgi, in Darcy's opinion, started some drama again, and she said it was time to cut the cord. It's over. They broke up. She's giving him too many chances, and she's just hit her limit, and there's no looking back. And so her eyes on the prize. Love, peace, healing, and happiness, joy, family, business is where she's going to be focused. Find out that Georgi moved back to DC, which is interesting to me because what does that mean for season 4? Are we not going to see Georgi on season 4, or is she going to take him back for the 10th time? I mean, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I want to believe it's over, but there have been signs. We'll see. We'll see. Dasha said, oh, maybe I'll date him. Ha! He's in DC. Look him up. And, he likes a little chocolate. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys all on Friday with news and gossip and maybe a little something. We'll see. Bye for now. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. C. Cruz and Dopey Dope, thank you so much for supporting the show and the super chats, super stickers. Truly appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.